Hey, welcome to Lost My Notes podcast with Ybot. We're a band called Ybot from London, England, and we've decided to have our own podcast. And the setting for the podcast is a new record shop in Kentish Town, North London, at 121 Kentish Town Road, just below Prince of Wales Road, and it's called Let It Roll Records. And we're here with the owner, Kieran Smith, who opened this record shop a few weeks ago. And for personally, I think it's a beautiful record shop. They even have coffee and drinks and everything, and it's very relaxed atmosphere. Everything's displayed well. You can actually find everything. It's labeled well. It's the tidiest record shop I've ever been in. And I'd like to introduce Kieran Smith and ask you, Kieran, give us a quick rundown of the background of how you came to open a record shop here in London.
Well, I worked in TV for about 30 years, and I love music more than anything else, and I wanted to be involved in some way, shape or form before I die. So I thought now was a good time to open a record store, and my wife and myself discussed it, and we got it together, started getting it together last November, and we opened about 3.5 weeks ago. So that was the dream, and it's now a reality, and it's a lot more work than I thought it would be. Tell you that. I mean, not that television wasn't hard work. It's just different. It's just different.
And is this what you're doing now? There's no more television?
There's no more television. No.
Wow. And your wife too?
She works in television.
She still works in television?
Yeah. She's a silent partner and the business brains behind the whole operation.
And you're the manual labor.
I'm the skivvy.
Yeah, the skiv.
Must be a lot of physical aspects to it as well, like keeping it nice and tidy and like kind of the minimal spaciousness and stuff.
Yeah, well, the interior design was her idea. She's brilliant at that. I kind of stuck to doing the records with Gary, my record buyer, and I did the sound system as well. So I thought if we're going to have a record store, it's got to have a decent sound system. So that was kind of high on my priority list, much to the irritation of certain people at certain points in the construction of the business. They're going, why are you worrying about that? We've got so much other things to do. And so, yeah.
Well, it was worth worrying about those things because it was a great atmosphere. You have a concrete garden back there. Are you going to do anything with that?
Yeah, we are. We're going to. Well, we had a little party on Friday night and kind of official opening the store, and we're going to put some tables and chairs out there so people can chill out. In the occasional good weather we have in this country, it'd be nice to sit outside. Have a drink and whatever, chill out, listen to a bit of music.
And something I always thought important in a record shop that makes it a more intimate experience is, do you preview records for people? Will you put them on? And
yeah, I mean, anybody that wants to listen to anything will play it.
That's great.
Yeah.
You don't get that much these days.
I mean, if somebody comes in and says, have you got this? I'll say, yeah, do you want to listen to it? I mean, I had a girl come in and she bought it was her husband's their anniversary, and she bought him a Radiohead album, and I said, well, what else does he like? She says he likes techno. So I said, I've got a great techno album, I'll play it for you. She bought it. I mean, that's kind of what we're here for.
Yes.
It's to kind of not just kind of sit sullenly behind the counter and go, yeah, you want that, and just buy it. I want to introduce people to music as well, because that's my passion. That's kind of my job in a way.
So this is the real record experience in London. So if you hear that, whoever's going to watch this, come down. Even if you come down for coffee.
Can you remind us the address, the exact address?
121 Kentish Town Road, NW1 8PB. That's 6 or 7 minutes from Camden Tube Station.
Phone number?
0203 602 3917.
And you're on Facebook?
Yes.
And that's, I checked it out. It's Let It Roll Records on Facebook, correct? And you're on Twitter?
On Twitter and Instagram, yeah.
And it's Let It Roll Records.
I think it's Let It Roll Rex on RECS on Twitter.
Right.
Either that or Instagram, I can't quite remember. I should remember. Yeah. We're building our website at the moment.
Get with it, come on.
Yeah.
If you like especially vinyl, there's not one. The only CDs here are ours that we brought with us, and the one that Chris gave us. So everything else is vinyl here, and if you're a vinyl head, this is the place.
Yeah.
And we have a lot of musician friends with vinyl heads, so we'll start getting them to come down.
Great.
Even though musicians mostly cheapskate, but we'll do the best we can.
Yeah.
It's a tough life being a musician.
Well, having said that, even if they're cheapskates, it's like the records here is very fairly priced, and you can find.
So's the coffee.
Yeah.
One was it $1.75 for an Americano? That's good price for coffee. Come in for coffee. Yeah. Spread the word. So thanks for letting us do this.
Pleasure.
I really appreciate it. And
Thanks.
in future episodes, we'll we want to interview you more in depth about your own musical taste and the
Sure.
things you really like as well.
Cool.
We're
Yeah.
looking forward to that. Thanks.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Hey, welcome back to Lost My Notes. This is our inaugural show. Again, we're Ybot. We're a three-piece band from London, England, and we're going to be doing this every week here at Let It Roll Records in Kentish Town. And we have an inaugural guest. It is Chris P. Mowforth and Chris Mowforth.
Yeah, Mowforth, yeah.
Mowforth, right.
Cheers.
See, I'm dyslexic, sorry. Chris P. Mowforth and Chris,
All right.
among other many bands he's been in and many musical ventures he's been involved in. He was the, people might know him most from being the bass player from Silverfish, here, an English band here from the 90s, in the early 90s.
Yeah.
And we're really proud to have Chris as our first guest. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Very fine to be here.
We're going to talk about Chris's musical career, about his relationship with vinyl, because we're in a vinyl shop. And we're going to plug what he's doing now, and he's going to shout out all of his peeps, and we're going to get going. So, Chris, you told me earlier that you originally were a drummer. You played drums originally.
Started out with a drum kit in my bedroom, annoying the neighbours.
Me
but-
too. We got something in common. Yeah.
Ah, there we go. So I was in the first school band called the Moonsters, playing drums.
And that's here in London. Are you from London?
Yes, grew up in West London, sort of Ealing, basically.
Right.
So there are a couple of guys from school and a couple of guys who used to write a fanzine with in the first band I was in. So when Charles and Di got married, they gave us a day off from school, so it was a good excuse to have a band rehearsal.
Great.
And what kind of fanzine was it?
No Class was the first fanzine that did. We went and interviewed bands like Crass, Alan McGee, Membranes, March Violets, Newtown
And
Neurotics.
you were teenagers.
I was still at school. Up until A levels. After A levels, yeah.
Explain what A levels, because for people who aren't of a certain age from England might not know.
Where they have GCSE or O levels at 16,
in America,
and
it's
then-
like the SATs and that
okay,
kind of thing.
I'm
so
not
the
quite
tests.
familiar how it
Yes.
translates over. Okay, and then after those you can get to university, or in my day there was Polytechnic. I went to the Polytechnic of Central London, but they call them all universities now.
Right.
So it's now Westminster University.
Right. So you guys you took a day off for the royal wedding.
Well, they gave us a day off from school, and the last thing I wanted to do was watch it on TV, so it seemed far better to form a band.
Wow. And
That seems very appropriate now of what happened with the
Yes.
I thought it reminded me,
Yeah.
but they didn't even give people a day off this time round.
No.
It was a Saturday.
was it a Saturday? Yeah, it was Saturday. So what did you actually play do any performing?
The school band did. I think the first gig we did was in a cricket club. It was somebody's birthday, and we played on my 21st birthday as well, and somebody left a microphone in the back of an amp and it fed back all the way through. But that's what made it seem like
Great.
the Jesus and Mary chain.
Oh, right. Okay. Before the time.
Wow.
Well, around the same
Around
time.
the same time. Yeah. Wow. So you played drums in that band.
Yeah.
And when did bass come into the picture?
Well, the band after that, I played guitar tuned to an E chord with one finger because I wanted to sound like the Cramps. So that was the Rover Girls, with Mark and Joel and Emma and Stuart and Pat, and a range of backing singers, Sally, Freddie, Melanie, Dara and Piera.
So was that a big band then? It was like
That's a lot.
Well, it was a fluctuating bunch of backing singers. We used to turn up and it was just a bunch of blokes, and we were called the Rover Girls. So we thought we'd get some girls in the band as well.
Might help. Yeah.
And it did work out. We got to play at the Astoria, supporting the Primitives in the end.
Wow.
There was My Bloody Valentine were on the bill as well, when they were on Lazy Records. Yeah, it was a good band. I have a son with Sally, who was one of the backing singers.
Oh, right. Oh, there you go.
Wow.
How old is he
Something
now?
Legacy
He's
continues.
18, he's doing A-levels.
Oh, right. There you go. Back to A-levels.
Yeah.
Right. So that would have been your second band?
Effectively, yeah. I mean, there was an early band. We just sent a cassette to Crass and got a note back from Penny Rimbold, which said anything you do creative is worthwhile, which probably is a big excuse for me being in a band still.
Still, yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, he's right. I agree. So wow. So then and why did you end up being primarily a bass player? What was it about bass that you liked?
There were less strings. I've got bigger fingers and guitar strings are harder.
Really? Well,
Wow, it's my excuse.
the way I hear your bass playing on a lot of the stuff, it sounds that doesn't sound like the reason. It sounds like a proper bass player.
Well, you find excuses. I'm not a classically trained by any means, but yeah, you get better as you go along, I guess.
Well, very memorable bass lines you do. I could sing some of them in my head now from Silverfish.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. So that was it. So that was the second band you were in, was the
Rover Girls.
Rover Girls, with all those people and all those girls.
Yeah.
And then where'd you go from there?
Well, Silverfish came along, really. I mean, used to know Fuzz from playing in this wine bar called Bumbles in Acton. He was in a band called Instincts, and kind of hooked up with him and the drummer of Rover Girls, Stuart. And we had another Sharon and Giuseppe at one point, but they never made it into the band for too long. And then we found Leslie beating up a guy at a gig.
Sounds about
so we thought she was worth recruiting.
Right.
Sounds about right. Yeah. I saw you in New York.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Whereabouts?
How many times did you come over? Was it twice?
Well, we went to talk to labels sometime, and we got to play at CBGB's.
That's where I saw you.
Oh, cool.
It was pretty wild.
Well, it was something to be able to say that played there anyway when it was there.
Yeah, and I remember because we had bands in New York back then with women, of course, but she had not just her, but there was like a sense of danger when you started, because you kind of walked out and the people who knew who you were really happy. But a lot of people who go to CB's as regulars would go there. They wouldn't really care who was playing, but it really made an impact. I remember by the second or third song, it was pretty,
that's
pretty wild.
how we'd like to come across. I mean, we did record an album in New York with Jim Thirlwall of
Which
Fetus, infamy, that Organ Fan.
Right. Oh, right. Okay.
And we stayed in his apartment
In
in Brooklyn while
Yeah.
we were there.
I lived not far from him.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Lydia Lunch came by to hang out for a while. We left Leslie and Lydia Lunch in, and we went out to drink in a bar.
They came back and they spontaneously combusted.
The four horsemen came out.
Wow. So Silverfish. My feeling for Silverfish is you were, to me, it was revolutionary to me, because there wasn't a band with that kind of grit with a woman fronting it at that time.
I wonder if we were a bit ahead of our time in a way.
You were. I think so.
Yeah.
I think so.
And it didn't sound, it wasn't like a Riot Girl thing as well. It was more intense than it was more, like songs like What a Fucking Strange Way to Get Attention. You know?
Oh boy, yeah.
Like that song, I was listening to that on the way here, and I was like, God, that's intense. How did they come up with that? Like,
Yeah, one of my favorite Silverfish songs is "Fat Painted Carcass." I love it in so many of the songs where he's playing with a clean sound, and then this fuzz comes. I want him to hear this fuzz, because that's the fuzz I want to hear.
You'd have a slide as well. So he's a
insane.
Great slide player.
And you're over there like thunder, and that drummer with no bass drum.
Well, he
Did he have a bass
had a
drum?
bass drum, but he was sat down and it was out the side.
Yeah.
So it was a different kind of setup that he had.
Yeah, it was very, very unique. And What's the other song
Well-
about? Give me a gun, I want to kill somebody.
Oh boy, we
Yeah.
played that in Belfast and realised that it's going to have a bit of a different meaning when you play it in the bogside area of Belfast.
Oh,
the
wow.
room was just
Wow.
silent.
What's the
after
name of
it.
that song?
Oh geez, I haven't listened to that in a long time.
Not Shit Out of Luck.
Oh no,
Which
that's
I
a
love.
different one.
Another
That's
one I
another
love.
one.
Yeah.
Heard somebody on a tube station saying that they'd missed the last train, so there was shit out
That's
of
Shit Out of Luck. We all know what that's like.
Um,
So I mean, so then you played with Silverfish, and something that Toby came up in his questions was that you were like a prolific music attendee of gigs as well.
Well, I mean, that's what was, first of all, was a music fan. I mean, used to be involved in a number of fanzines, wrote for this No Class one. Then I did one called 54321, which was kind of an Indian rockabilly zine, which featured things like Shop Assistants, June Brides, Stingrays, Sunglasses After Dark, the X-Men. Then there was one I did on the Enterprise Allowance Scheme. It was a government scheme in this country while you were signing on, called Irreversible Neural Damage.
That was a fanzine.
That was the name of the fanzine.
Do you still have copies of these?
I have personal copies, but under the stairs somewhere.
Have you uploaded like?
No, some of the
screenshots?
No Class. Graham's been has a website for the No Class fanzine.
Who's Graham?
He's guy. He was in Moonsters. He's now helping phone up and get some gigs for Kajiki Vault, which is another band I'm in now.
Right, which we'll hear about later.
Okay, cool.
Cool.
Yeah.
So you were a big fan, but you were writing fanzines, so it was you had to go to the gigs.
Well, I mean, the Irreversible Neural Damage was getting to meet. Did interviews with Killdozer, Steve Albini. Unfortunately, when he was in Rape Man, but Butthole Surfers, World Domination Enterprises. Did a piece about going on tour with My Bloody Valentine as well.
So it's like a who's who of some of the most influential bands from the 80s, really. Isn't
Yes.
Well, that was the stuff I was getting into at that time. So cool.
And who went on a tour with My Bloody Valentine?
Well, Silverfish.
Oh, you guys did.
We'd done 3 gigs, and My Bloody Valentine invited us on tour for the next 3 gigs. It was in, I wrote this down, 1989, February 89.
Wow.
We got to Norwich Arts Centre, Portsmouth Poly, and Bristol Beer Keller.
Wow.
I'd never had so little sleep.
And that was the tour. Excuse me. That was the tour. Those 3.
On that particular tour, we played other gigs. We knew My Bloody Valentine from round here. Was saying this shop's not far away from where the Falcon used to be, which was a hangout in Camden, the gig venue. And then My Bloody Valentine had to squat up the road. Kevin and Colum used to squat in Kentish town. If there was nothing happening after the pub shut, then we'd go up their house and have a party.
Wow.
Cool. Another thing I noticed is I was listening to the Cockeye compilation, it was like EP kind of compilation over the weekend, and I was noticing that apart from MBV, I'd say that Silverfish were one of the few bands where you would have entire sections where the guitar just didn't sound like a guitar at all, and it would go into like this kind of crazy sort of white noise, and then it would kind of go really stretched out notes, and it was very.
The initial EP was recorded in an overnight session where Kevin came along to sit in, and we'd carefully write a level on the guitar fader, and then Fuzz would just push it past that, and we'd all look at Kevin and say, "That's all right." So we'd leave it in. So it's an influence from that as well. But yeah.
But it's still very different. So it's very different from that as well.
Fuzz has doesn't use a huge number of pedals, but is great at getting wholly different sounds from the ones he does. Yeah,
Right.
it's great.
Is he still playing?
Yeah, I'm still in a band with him.
Oh, you're in which band is that?
That's called Hercules 2.
Okay, we're gonna run through.
Okay.
I'd like to work our way up to
Sure,
today, because that's
sure.
the most important thing is what you're doing now, and and I'll jump in with my experience of you more recently,
Oh,
of
wow.
seeing you play. So Silverfish era, and then let's go from there. What happened after Silverfish?
Well, yeah, Leslie left to do a solo project, Ruby,
yeah.
which all left us a bit of a dead end for a while. So,
Did you get into bands soon after that, or was it a bit of a sort of mourning period? Or
well, did get into a band with Richard Andrea, who was from Mambo Taxi, Mitch, and we found a singer, Ren, in the end, that had sampler and keyboards.
The singer Ren, was it a woman?
Yeah,
Was she from America?
yeah. You don't know it. We've totally lost touch with her.
Remember we tried out when we were in Manflu with Dudu and I. We tried out when our first singer left. We went through all these auditions, and there was a woman, Ren. She was a black woman from
Yes.
America.
It's the same person.
Oh, she's amazing.
She could sing,
sure.
for sure.
Yeah, she liked one of our songs, and she kept talking to me about it on the phone as we leading up to her audition.
Oh, wow.
And she came in, and she just wanted to do that song. We did it a few times, and then we jammed a bit, and then we liked her, but we didn't hear from her again. Remember, she liked that song
I
Prince.
remember very well. Yeah.
Yeah. She's so you were
Did
in a
some
band with her?
recording with her, yeah.
Yeah, she's
had
amazing.
a CD. Well, it wasn't officially out, but just totally lost touch with her, though. I don't know.
Yeah, she disappeared on us too.
Where she is.
Because she wanted to come and see us once we got our singer. She stayed in a bit of touch and said, "Oh yeah, I want to come and see you." She never came. So.
It was one of the few times we'd advertised for somebody, and she was somebody who turned up. So
Well, I hope she's okay. And doing
exactly. Oh, the best friend.
well. Small world.
Indeed.
So that was that band was called again. Sorry,
Hercules
Copyright.
too.
Copyright.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Good name.
Well, I don't know quite where it came from. Richard used to be in Headbutt as well.
Headbutt. That's a great
Hang
name.
on. Yes, I've missed Headbutt. Yeah. Headbutt was after Silverfish. That's,
Right.
Yeah. Headbutt. Yeah, I had my name on a contract with Sony Records. So I was a bit bored of that. So to get the name off of that, I joined this band called Headbutt that I knew Sony Records would never want to put out.
I was going to ask you about that. How was the deal that you had with Silverfish? Were you guys treated okay, or do you feel like it could have been fairer for you looking back?
I don't know. I felt it was kind of a game. We'd played to get on the Sony in the first place. We had some labels that were interested, RCA and WEA and Sony, and they flew us over to America. We basically signed with the one that got us the most free booze and bought us got us free food.
Yeah, that's important. Yeah.
I don't know. I was losing a bit of enthusiasm with major labels around that time. I don't know why.
Right.
So I went back to something obscure and noisy with Headbutt and went to tour German squat venues with them, sort of thing.
Cool. That must have been fun.
Well, it was a bit harder work up from after Silverfish, and you had a hotel room to go back to,
Yes.
but having a sleeping bag and sleeping on a squat floor. But,
And in what cities in Germany?
well, it was shortly after the Berlin Wall came down, so we were playing in the west, but we were also playing in what was the east, and the contrast was, there was quite a contrast.
Wow.
All right.
You got some customers. This is great. Come on in. Buy
The
records.
record shop's still open. Cool.
Feel free.
Yeah. By the way, we have not to forget that we need our guests to go through the selection.
We're going
right?
to do that. Yeah, we're going to do that. Don't worry. We're getting there. So there was Headbutt, which was after Silverfish. You played a lot of squats.
Well,
in
yeah,
Germany.
that was with Keith and Ashley and Simon and Steph, Richard, Jason, Jim, Elvina, Elmer, Kirsten, Lewis at different times.
Jeez.
It was all bass players, no guitar, and
That's
multiple
like
drummers and drumming on bits of metal as well. There'd be somewhere like in Prague where we played in a squat where they got the electricity from the street lights on the road, but it was getting a bit popular, so the police turned off the street lights in the road. So we had to do a set where we just drummed on bits of metal.
Wow. So you went from Silverfish and to Headbutt.
Yeah,
and then copyright?
Yes, I'm getting my orders mixed
That's
up.
all right. We want to know it all, man.
And then after copyright was Giant Paw. There was quite a gap between copyright because had a son, and so Giant Paw was just jamming with some friends, getting back into doing some music again.
So what? That was around 2000 then?
Yeah, son was born in 1999,
Oh,
so
very good.
yeah, it was.
And when did Silverfish end? Was it 94, 95?
I think that was 93 actually. Yeah.
Friends of mine from Detroit, there's a girl band, Inside Out.
Oh, I remember them.
They're
They
good.
came over
I've been
here.
knowing
Yeah.
them since like 87.
Oh,
Yeah, no, I think they played with you guys because they came back. You gotta check. I already knew who you were. But they were just telling everybody about
Oh, cool.
Leslie and this girl Leslie. She punches guys in the face.
Well, not all the time.
No.
There's footage of her jumping on stage with David Yao pulling his trousers down. He doesn't have any pants
Good
on.
for her.
It's
For a
kind of an
change.
appropriate surname as well for something like that to happen as well. Isn't it?
He grabbed me by the jacket, by the denim jacket at Tramps in New York, and dragged me around. And then the jacket came off, and he threw it to the other side of the club. It had my wallet, my keys, and they were scattered all over the place.
Well,
And I was shocked because it was the first time I stood next to him, and he's shorter than me. It was pretty short. So
I remember jumping around Pussy Galore with Colum, and he grabbed hold of my leather jacket, was jumping around and almost pulled the arms off.
I was gonna ask you as well. Because, one last thing is, do you think audiences have changed at gigs compared to now? Because I remember back, even me when I was a little kid, seeing all the bands, and there was just moshing wasn't a little section that you'd seen. It was like 70% of the crowd
Yeah.
was doing it. Like,
I mean, we used to have a bingo to do on stage security because we used to get stage divers and just make sure they didn't trample over all the pedals or anything.
right.
So yeah, stage diving was quite a thing, and there are a lot more people seem to be involved in the gig. It does seem a bit more reserved these days.
Yeah. What do you think? This I mean, this is a stupid question, really, but this culture now with people filming gigs, you know,
I'm guilty of it myself. I'll
Yeah.
take the odd photo because it's like an advert for the gig sometimes
Right,
or something.
yeah.
But yes, it's different from. I'm kind of glad it didn't exist back when I was diving off of speaker stacks and stuff. Although there's a photo of me on an album sleeve called Speed Kills 3, diving off the top of the speaker stack at Hammersmith Clarendon, a Suicidal Tendencies gig.
Right.
That ended up on this album sleeve.
if you saw one video camera at a gig back then, it was a big deal. I used to bring mine to see Fire when Mike Watt would come to town. It was when I first got my first video camera, around 85, 86, and I never got Minutemen because I never had a camera.
Wow.
But I got Mike Watt. I got them hanging out at my place when they would stay with us, and I was the only video camera I had in the whole place.
There's a few people who you used to go down the market after gigs and people would be selling you cassettes down the market over there.
Oh yeah,
different gigs.
culture. Now everyone, I mean, I see people watch us when we play the whole gig through the instead of seeing the
I mean, you
stage.
have to ask to get gigs taken down if a lot of the time.
Yeah.
Sometimes it can be an advert for
Yeah.
what you're doing,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you
Well, it's not
don't
so-
always want all your material out there.
Yeah, it's just so different. So we got up to 1999 when you had a son, and what was going on after around that time?
Well, then there were a couple of friends, Andy and Tony, started jamming with in Andy's house and Tony's bedroom, where we just had a drum machine. So
Yeah.
it was, Andy used to be in Cream and Jesus, and Tony I've worked with, and that was called Giant Paw. We'd have other people like Terry and Tracy who they'd both come along and do backing vocals and a bit of extra guitar. Ended up recording we did a CD. But I don't know.
So your music by then, your musical legacy is grown quite a bit.
I just something that.
Was it just something that you just carried on with?
Yeah, if it's a hobby. I had to tell myself it was more of a hobby then than it was in Silverfish, say.
Right.
Where it was, I used to say I was married to a band then, because at really short notice I could go off on tour.
I mean, when you look back at your discography for Silverfish, it's quite amazing to think that in the space of 3-4 years you put out like 2-3 albums and a whole bunch of EPs.
Yeah.
It's quite.
I mean, it was something
very
back
active,
then
isn't it?
as well. There was Sounds, Record Mirror, Enemy, Melody Maker, so that came out weekly. So they were looking for stuff to get put in the papers each week.
There weren't
Like
as
a
many
CD.
bands.
Yeah.
Where this is it. So you, I don't know, when you came out, you were trying to come out with stuff so they could put it into weekly music papers even back then.
Right. Yeah, because you used to get an accompanying CD with a lot of the like Melody Makers and Enemy and stuff. Or do you just mean just to like have something that they could write about?
Well, have something they could write about. I mean, the second Silverfish gig was reviewed in Melody Maker, so then on the back of that, you can get
take
better
off.
gigs, and it does help.
Yeah, wow. So okay. So we're after what was it? After 1990? Where'd you go after
Paul.
1999? Giant Paul.
Yeah, we'd spent a long time. We'd spent too much money in a recording studio, and so that kind of stopped, and then started Lamppost Gullivers with Liam and John.
When did you start that?
But they asked me if I was available to, and we'd jam around in Audio Underground when it was in Stoke Newington.
And what year would that be?
I didn't write
Was
that
Johnny
down.
still in Naught when you?
Yes, he
he
was
was
still
still in
doing Naught then. Yeah.
Because I saw you 2 years. I saw it was with Anarchist Wood at that place that's a billiard, that's a snooker hall in Stoke Newington, upstairs.
Okay.
Like
Oh
2
yes,
years
just
ago.
above of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because Johnny told, come see my
right.
band.
How cool.
And I didn't know. And it was the first time I knew who you were. I said, I'm with Chris from Silverfish, and we got this band with this kind of weird guy, and it's really cool. And I was blown away. I was really blown away because it's so. Oh man,
It's intense, isn't it?
It's intense, but you can't. I couldn't put it into words. I still can't. Because there's like three things happening at once that fit together. Like he's like the anchor. Johnny's playing this drum kit that. My worst enemy, I wouldn't wish this drum kit upon my worst drummer enemy. It's like crap.
It was like a house drum kit.
It was really bad. And this guy is this Liam to me. It was just like and I don't want to. I got a lot of respect for him, but it was like.
Was he taking it
was
on?
like a child
Right.
and Frankenstein had a kid together.
Right.
Because he was
So
very
kind of chaos.
childlike,
Right.
but very at the same
Powerful.
Yeah, and when he sings, it's like a monster singing.
He
It's amazing.
prone to epilepsy.
Yeah, I've heard he's
and
had
and
issues.
sometimes but it was difficult to put too much pressure on him sometimes because he was it could have these petit mal, he'd call them, or something, or things that.
But
It was difficult to put.
but you could see his genius,
Yeah.
despite all that, when he was on stage with you guys. The genius of him and of the band, of the whole thing. It just works really well. And what was the band he was in before that? The Fit for Surgery.
Jeez.
Because-
There was a couple of bands. So he was. I mean, him and John used to live in Oxford, so he was
Right.
known round on the Oxford scene more. Lamppost Gullivers did go back to Oxford, where he was known more.
Because-
Suitable case for treatment.
That's it. And Santiago from Naught recorded them. He told us. He told
Okay,
me and
cool.
Didi. Yeah.
Right.
So yes, we're up to Lamppost Gullivers, which people should definitely find on YouTube. Did you release anything?
There was a CD, yeah. I'm not in the photo on it because I was at work, so it's Sexton Ming is in the photo on the sleeve of the CD.
Uh-huh.
But there is a CD.
Do you remember the title of the CD?
That's All Your Worldly Schmutter.
That's
All Your
great.
Worldly
That was
Schmutter.
one of John's phrases. Somebody did it somewhere.
Lamppost
Wow.
Gullivers, I highly recommend.
Me
And,
too.
and Is it Gutters after that? Is it,
Was Gutters quite? Because
Well,
you put something out quite recently, didn't you?
yeah, we've been
that's
checking it out.
That's the most recent. I mean, there was Hercules 2 as well. That's with Ashley, Rob, Fuzz, who was in Silverfish,
Right.
Gigi and Lewis. Gutters didn't really get going until I asked Gigi, who's also in Hercules 2, if he wouldn't mind coming along to a rehearsal, because we didn't have a guitarist initially. So yeah, Gutters is now jamming around in the rehearsal space in Audio Underground. Yeah, there's a cassette called Skullscapes available through Bandcamp, but there's we're trying to get some stuff together with a software program called GarageBand, where we're just cutting up different jams and sticking them together, and we'll see how that goes.
Right.
And so Gutters is and Hercules 2 are both current for you?
Yes,
your
yeah.
two bands now.
Hercules 2 are playing at the Dublin Castle with Spiz Energy on Saturday 23rd of June.
Well, I'm going to go to that. With Spiz, it's been like 30 years since I've seen him.
Well, yeah, he's still good,
Yeah,
good.
that's
It's
what
a
I hear.
slimmed down version because Ashley's in LA and Gigi's busy, so we've got a couple of rehearsals before that one.
And with any of the bands that you've been in from this long history of music, have all of them been from writing from just playing together and finding something on like a sometimes accidentally, or has it been you all come into something pre-written? Is it?
Well, it's different with different bands. The Hercules stuff, there was stuff that Ashley and Robert got together. Kajiki Vault's another band that I'm in with Mark and Joel, who used to be in Rover Girls years back. And they've got another drummer, Did, and Dermot, who are playing with them. He's on keyboards. I meant to plug a gig with them Saturday 9th of June at the Water Rats, Grazing Road, with the Flaming Stars and the Reformers.
Nice.
So thanks.
Say the name of the band again, please.
That's Kajiki Vault.
Kajiki Vault, Water Rats.
King Cross.
Saturday 9th of June.
Yeah.
Water Rats.
So that sounds like a good one too.
Yeah,
Thanks.
definitely.
And the other one is Dublin Castle, and that's Hercules 2.
Yeah.
23rd of
23rd
June.
of June. With
And-
Spiz Energy.
And you've
Yeah.
got quite a tie with Dublin Castle, because didn't you do like, I saw once on your Facebook that you did like 2 gigs in a row down at the same
Well,
place
it's
or something? Like,
I
with
haven't
two
been in
different
3
bands.
bands at the same time before. But there's, I mean, the people there know us and like us, I hope. So that, been in different bands there at different times. Going back to your other question though, Gutters is a band where we do jam around to get the songs. It's
Right.
not like anybody, the other two, there's something there to start off with.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's fun to be in a band where it's an equal footing and you come in with everybody contributes something.
That's nice. Yeah.
Yeah, we do that too.
Cool.
And is Johnny from Naught, formerly of Naught, is he in one of these bands?
He's in Gutters, yeah.
Oh, yeah, okay.
He was in Lamppost Gullivers
Yes.
and now in Gutters, yeah.
And will Lamppost Gullivers ever be doing anything again?
Well, Liam's moved out of London. He moved back with his mum and went to college. So we haven't really heard from him. We've been in touch, but there was. I'll leave you a compilation CD that we did put out.
That'd be great.
That's yeah. There are different bands on there that we played gigs with or knew of at the time. So we did our own record label, and there were only 2 releases, but that was the second one.
Marble Ear Records number 002 is Beyond the Marble Ear compilation. And it's got Lamppost Gullivers, Black Crack, The Dog Bones, Sexton Ming, Jack Shirt, Rude Mechanicals, and many other, Skinny Girl Diet. Quite a lot of bands. There's 18 bands on.
Yeah.
Would have been Widebot on there if we'd known about you at the time. But
Well, we
Next
there was
time.
just a
Yeah.
bit.
and we've been
Anarchist Wood
coming up
is on it.
on the come up. Yeah.
Yeah, we'd love to be on a
A
compilation.
lot of friends on this compilation.
Yes. Look, I like this name. I've got to check them out. Chin of Britain.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's Chin. He used to be in Milk, and
Oh, there's a guy named Chin.
yeah.
Oh, he's a drummer.
Yeah,
Oh, I've got to check him out.
And this is a couple of stupid sort of questions. They're a bit TMZ sounding, But was there any was there any piece of advice that another musician gave you that really served you well down the line?
I'd have to go back to the Crass, when we sent a cassette to Crass and he sent a letter back saying anything you do creative is worthwhile.
Right, yeah, that's a good point. That's a crucial point.
You can't get more, better advice than that.
No, you can't. I mean, Crass are an amazing label as well, aren't they? Yeah.
They would encourage people and into doing things rather than discourage them. That seems to happen more these days. I don't know.
But it's funny, like labels now as well are very different beasts to what they were back before. It's like now, a lot of labels they'll just basically front for your distribution, but then the rest of it's down to you. Like
recording costs and everything else. It is quite a change.
And a lot of them want a piece of your live and a piece of your merch, and some of them do.
Seriously? Oh, right. I mean, Silverfish started off on the rough trade shop label called Ouija, because that was their postcode.
Ouija, yeah, I've heard that.
And they would get us some money for recording, but it'd be a nighttime session sort of thing, the cheapest slot going, because that's what could be afforded.
Yeah. And a last little thing as well, you were, like, especially with Silverfish, you were really, really tied in with the Camden rock scene at the time.
Well, it's nice coming back, seeing what's around here again.
Yeah.
Knowing there's a record shop here is something. It used to be, it was easy for the music journalists to say there was a Camden scene so they could write about a few bands together. But we were going to the same venues and checking each band out.
Yeah.
You'd have an audience. If you'd go and see one band, you could say, come and see our band, and it kind of worked out.
Yeah.
There weren't so many venues too, and so much saturation.
Well,
especially in London.
I'd say there's probably less venues now than there was back then.
But I think there's so much on any given night in London.
Yeah, in terms of just
local
overall
music
stuff, yeah.
It's a pity places have shut down, though. A lot of the old venues that were there aren't there anymore.
Yes,
with complaints about noise from neighbours or whatever.
Well, because gentrification's kind of surrounded these places now.
It's the thing these days.
It is sad.
Were there any other hot spots in London that, a lot of bands would be around? And
Well, I said I grew up in West London, but seemed to end up going out in North London all the time. But in West London, there was this Bumble's Wine Bar, and the Clarendon used to be a venue in Hammersmith, but then they developed the tube station.
Yes,
right. And
I've
that
heard
disappeared.
stories about the Clarendons.
It was.
I have a friend who saw the Stranglers there in like '77. He said it was a crazy place.
It's a total grotty place, really, but yes, kind of iconic now, I suppose.
Yeah, and you would have been a teenager when the first wave punk bands were really coming about.
I didn't get to so many of them, but there were some kids at school who'd been to see somebody, and you'd go and you'd be a group round them who wanted to hear about how that concert had been the day and the school playground the day after. So, I mean, grew up in West London, there'd be a band like the Ruts played in Southall, and there had been a bit of a riot, and the pub got burnt down and stuff. So you had stories like that filtering through from other people. And
the Damned, were they from Brentford, or is that just Rat Scabies from Brentford?
My mum lives 2 doors away from Rat Scabies.
He's still in Brentford?
He's in Brentford, near the football ground.
Were they based there? No?
Not particularly, I think. I mean, he lives around there now. But
I used to, the first time I went to CBGB's, some kid at school said, television. So we went to see Television. I was didn't like them because they were kind of boring. But the Ramones played the same night.
I've always liked the Ramones.
Like, who's this?
Yeah.
And it was before they had an album.
Oh, wow.
I may be getting it backwards with the dates of who came first with an album, but
right.
And that just
it was a proud moment for Silverfish when we got to support, or we were on the same bill at a French festival. So we did get to be on the same bill as the Ramones.
Wow.
They had a whole load of French food that they'd laid on for them that they sent out for McDonald's.
Yeah, of course.
That's it's amazing.
They would have sent out for White Castle, which is a chain in exclusive to the East Coast.
Well, oh, okay. Well, where we were in France was only McDonald's, I think.
I'm sure. Wow. So, Chris, we want to ask you if do you have anything else to plug and anybody else to shout out? Because we want you to. We're gonna walk around the shop and
just if there's maybe one or two records that you if you
could tell stories about.
Maybe three. You can say three records to choose, just to have a bit of variety.
Yeah. We're back, Lost by Notes podcast with Ybot, and we asked Chris to pick out some records that mean something to him here at Let It Roll Records in Kentish Town. And the first one he picked was The Young Gods play Kurt Weill.
Great band. Silverfish got to go on tour with them in Switzerland at 2 days' notice. The cranes pulled out, but
nice one.
Nice. Rate everything they've done. But that's a good one.
Only £9.99.
Is it? How much is that one?
Yeah.
Here at Kieran's record shop.
Okay,
you
cool.
can get that for $9.99, man.
And I can say from living in South London, that's a really good price.
That's good price.
Yeah,
Come on.
Yeah.
Young Marble Giants from the Colossal Youth album. You've picked the Colossal Youth album.
They're a great band on Rough Trade label. Used to play that a lot myself. When I was in band Copyright, I told them all they should listen to that.
Oh yeah,
it's great.
Did they listen?
I can't remember now.
The next one you picked was Love Blobs Congealed.
They're on the Ouija label. That was the same label that Silverfish started out on.
Right.
It's Tim, who's now in part Chimp. He played drums on this.
Oh, he's in part Chimp. Okay.
Yeah. They're a great band. Used to go to their gigs.
I'm saving a certain one for last because I like it too. Who's the front?
Cocktail Twins.
Treasure.
Oh, yeah.
They were a great band.
Yes.
Stuff sounded like it came from another planet or something, and they were from Scotland.
It's their own language.
It seemed like it. Elizabeth Fraser's a great singer.
There's not really a singer like her out there, is it? Isn't it?
It's from somewhere else entirely. That's Caverns of Antimatter.
Yes.
That's a guitarist who used to be in Stereolab, and Joe, who used to be in Faith Healers on drums. They're out in Berlin, as far as I know, these days. I think that's the first album. They've got a number of releases. I think it's worth checking out.
When I lived on East 3rd Street for a couple of years in New York City, I would play this album really loud, and the people next door who were into like house music, I used to complain about them, so I'd put things like this on to kind of counteract what they were doing and face the speakers toward the wall. Big Black Songs About Fucking. This is one of my favorite Big Black albums. It is awesome. Was this the last one?
Well,
one of the last
I
ones.
think, of the Big Black stuff that Steve Albini did. I mean, I forgot to say earlier, Silverfish got to record an album in Sheffield with Steve Albini.
Which album?
Fat Axel.
Oh, right. Oh, we
did it on the cheap, so we had to call him Ding Rolski on the sleeve.
Okay.
But Stuart, the drummer, shared a bed with him that night in Noel from AC Temple's house up in Sheffield. We recorded it in 2 days and had to really ask him for a second take on some stuff that had gone wrong. He wanted everything to be first take.
Yeah, that's what I've heard. But this is one of my favorites, and just the cover alone is.
But it looks like kind of like sort of Japanese animation style as well.
It looks like Roy Lichtenstein.
You could see why his next band was called Rape Man if he was looking at comics like that. But that would seem to be an unfortunate name in the end.
Pull no punches. So that's a selection that Chris picked of
it's a fine
records that
shop.
mean something to him.
Yeah, that you can get at Let It Roll Records.
Yes.
Cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, this has been the Ybot Lost My Notes inaugural show, and we'll get the kinks out for next time. We've kind of winged it, but we appreciate everybody who's going to watch this, and
listen.
we're going to plug ourselves. We have to plug ourselves. So coming up very soon in June the 12th at the Seabright Arms in Hackney.
All right.
We will be playing EP release with 2 other bands. One's called Benu Dub and one's called Collider. And it's kind of a proto, well, Toby don't like that word, but it's got elements of rap. All the bands kind of have that, but
Yeah.
if you're familiar with us, the only thing rap about us mostly is Toby. And our new EP, which we actually are holding in our hand now, which is a great feeling. It's our second release. It's called Flock, Herd, or Hive with a question mark, and it's a 7-song EP. It's almost an album, and that's available on our Bandcamp. It will be after June 12th, and we hope it's a free gig. It's a great venue.
What's the date of the gig?
June the 12th, Tuesday.
Fine.
Yeah.
3 bands for free. Great room, great sound system, nice bar upstairs, decent food.
It is one of the best sound systems
that we've played.
London.
Harry, we hope we get. If our sound man David Rose doesn't show, because he's that's what he does for a living, but he fits us in when he can. Harry, the sound man, is awesome. John, the promoter, is awesome, and X-Ray Booking put it all together for us. So. And come down and buy our new CD. And we still have T-shirts. We have our first album, Young Blood, Old Tricks, is still available.
I've got that.
And so and Chris, plug yourself again. Your gig's coming up, please.
Oh boy, I had
June the
to-
9th at Water Rats.
Yeah,
Yes,
June the
that-
9th, Water
that-
Rats
that
was
was
Kajiki
with
Vault.
Flaming Star.
Kajiki Vault.
Yeah, when I'm in Kajiki Vault.
Yeah.
And Saturday, June 23rd at the Dublin Castle with Hercules 2.
And that's with
Nice.
Spiz Energy headlining.
Yes.
So we're
Yeah.
looking forward to those.
Yeah.
Thanks
Nice
for being
one.
with us on our inaugural show. And we look forward to more shows. And
Yeah, it's
Chris,
been a real
all
pleasure.
the best. Thanks
Yeah.
so much for being here.
Great.
And
thank you.
thank Kieran and the shop.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, thanks, Kieran.
Yeah.
I'll
Cheers.
get them
And
back in the right section.
Come down and buy records. And
Thanks.
What's your name again?
It's Alfie.
Alfie, the best coffee in
London.
Camden
Yeah.
Borough.
No, come on, man. You got to lift this
Yeah,
up.
right.
In
London,
London. Give it
the
give
whole
it that.
greater inside the M25 is
Yeah.
the best coffee.
Great.
Thank you.